My own son called me useless in front of everyone. At a 4th of July barbecue I thought would bring us closer. He didn't whisper it. He laughed when he said it like I was the punchline. But here's what no one knew. I adopted him at 1, nursed him through a heart defect, worked 30 years of night shifts to pay his college tuition. And now, he shoved me and said I should go clean houses again. They didn't know about the $8 million trust Grace left me, the woman who saw my worth when my own family didn't. I'm not just a nurse. I'm a mother who rebuilt herself after being erased. In this story, you'll see how I bought his failing company, fired him in front of his board, and walked out with my name and his legacy. You'll hear my granddaughter defend me with a shout and read the cruel text my son sent behind my back. She's useless now. The next morning, I bought his company in cash. If you've ever felt invisible, too old, or like you've given everything for nothing in return, don't scroll past this, because you need to see what I did next. Before you give up on yourself, before I take you into my story, I want to know a little about you. Where are you watching from right now? Your living room, your kitchen, maybe your porch like mine. And tell me, who's the most important person in your life? Drop a 1 in the comments if it's your mom, a 2 if it's your dad, or a 3 if it's someone else entirely. I'll be reading the comments, and maybe you'll see a surprise message just for you. Now come with me. Let's walk through this story together. My son's 4th of July barbecue was supposed to warm my heart. Instead, it shattered it. The sizzle of burgers on the grill filled Nathan's backyard in Fairview, Oregon on July 4th, 2024. Picnic tables groaned under platters of apple pie and pitchers of lemonade, their tart sweetness mingling with smoky air. Country music hummed from speakers, twanging about lost loves and dusty roads. Red, white, and blue bunting fluttered above, catching the golden evening light. I smoothed my sundress, my fingers brushing the keychain in my pocket, a heavy brass key from my late employer Grace's safe, locked years ago with a promise I'd yet to uncover. I hoped tonight would bring the family closer, especially after losing my nursing job. Mia, my 15-year-old granddaughter, bounded over, her ponytail swinging. "Grandma, your stories are the best," she gushed, hugging me tight. Her warmth eased my nerves, her admiration a reminder of why I'd sacrificed so much. I smiled, ruffling her hair, but Nathan, my 35-year-old son, approached with a tight-lipped nod. His collared shirt was crisp, his jaw tense. Career stress, I figured, from his tech startup. "Hey, Mom," he muttered, his eyes darting to the guests. Neighbors, colleagues, his wife Lauren's family. I swallowed, hoping to share my news gently. At the main table, I sat beside Lauren, her blonde hair swept into a perfect bun. Her mother, Diane, sipped Chardonnay across from us, her pearl earrings glinting. Rachel, my 32-year-old daughter, picked at her coleslaw, her gaze fixed on her plate. I cleared my throat, my voice soft over the clink of forks. "I've got some news," I began. "The hospital cut my position. I'm figuring out what's next." My chest tightened, expecting sympathy, maybe a hug. Nathan's burger froze halfway to his mouth. His eyes narrowed, a flush creeping up his neck. "What, you're just gonna mooch off us now?" he snapped, loud enough for heads to turn. Guests murmured, their whispers sharp as knives. My breath caught, my face burning. I'd raised him alone, adopted him at 1, given up my career to work night shifts for his tuition. How could he say that? Lauren smirked, her fork twirling pasta salad. "No 401k? Typical." Her tone dripped with condescension, as if my 30 years of nursing were a hobby. Diane leaned forward, her wine glass tilting. "Maybe clean houses again, Ellen," she said, her smile thin, her words slicing through the hum of Garth Brooks. I glanced at Rachel, hoping for support, but she fidgeted, avoiding my eyes, her silence a fresh wound. Guilt, maybe, from when I missed her high school graduation for a double shift. Mia, though, slammed her soda can down. "She's not a burden," she huffed, her cheeks red. The table went quiet, forks pausing mid-air. My chest tightened, a dull ache spreading. I wanted to shout, to remind them of the nights I'd sewn Nathan's costumes, the years I'd skipped vacations to pay his loans. Instead, I pushed my chair back, its legs scraping the patio stones. "I need some air," I mumbled, my hands trembling as I walked toward the garden, the music fading behind me. The scent of charcoal lingered, heavy as my thoughts. I'd poured my life into Nathan, adopted him when his heart defect nearly took him, gave up dreams to keep him safe. Was that all for nothing? By the rose bushes, I pulled out my phone, needing a distraction. A text notification glowed. "Nathan to Lauren sent an hour ago. She's useless now," it read. My stomach lurched, the words searing like a brand. Useless? After everything? The text hinted at more. Company's bleeding cash, can't deal with her too. His callousness stunned me, a betrayal sharper than his words at the table. Love shouldn't mean sacrifice without respect, I thought, my fingers tightening around the phone. Something shifted inside me, a spark of defiance flickering through the hurt. Nathan's voice, raised and cruel, had been the final straw. Lauren's smirk, Diane's jab, Rachel's silence. They all piled on, each a stone crushing my heart. But Mia's fierce defense, her young voice cutting through, reminded me I wasn't alone. I glanced back at the table, Nathan laughing with a colleague, as if he hadn't just humiliated me. My resolve stirred, a quiet promise to fight back. I'd raised him, not his ego, hadn't I? The text about his struggling company nagged at me, a crack in his armor I hadn't expected. Could this be my way to fight back? I slipped the phone into my pocket, the keychain's weight grounding me, as the country music's twang dwindled to a distant hum. I thought losing my job hurt most. Then Nathan pushed me out his door. Nathan's kitchen in Fairview gleamed under harsh lights, stainless steel appliances reflecting my tense face. The coffee maker gurgled, its bitter aroma mixing with the tang of lemon cleaner. I gripped my suitcase handle, my knuckles white, still reeling from last night's barbecue. Nathan's text, "She's useless now," burned in my mind, his words sharper than the 4th of July insults. I remembered Grace, my late employer, her voice warm. "You're my family, Ellen." Her words, spoken years ago in her quiet study, felt like a lifeline now, hinting at something she'd left behind. I stepped forward, my sandals clicking on the tile. "Nathan," I said, my voice soft, "I just need time to figure things out." He stood by the counter, his jaw tight, his collared shirt rumpled from a sleepless night. His startup's stress, I knew, weighed heavy, debts piling up, dreams slipping. But I was his mother, the one who'd adopted him at one, nursed him through a weak heart. Didn't that count? What would you do if the person you raised, fed, protected, sacrificed for, looked you in the eye and told you to get out? This part still stings every time I think about it. If you're still here with me, drop a 5 in the comments, because what happened next still lives in my bones. He slammed his mug down, coffee sloshing. "Get a maid job or get out," he yelled, his face red. Before I could speak, he shoved me, his hands hard on my shoulders. My back hit the doorframe, pain flaring. Guests in the living room, neighbors, Lauren's cousins, gasped, their chatter dying. Lauren, leaning against the fridge, sneered, her manicured nails tapping. "Nursing homes need aides, Ellen," she said, her voice dripping venom, as if my 30 years of nursing were a joke. My eyes stung, tears threatening, but I blinked them back. Diane, Lauren's mother, glided in, her silk scarf fluttering. "A senior home job suits you," she said, her tone icy, her eyes commanding compliance. She'd always guarded their family image, her socialite status fragile under scrutiny. I straightened, my shoulder throbbing, and met her gaze. "I'm done being your ATM," I said, my voice steady despite the ache in my chest. I grabbed my suitcase, the coffee maker's gurgle fading as I pushed through the door, the screen slamming behind me. My heart pounded. How could Nathan, my boy, turn so cruel? The Fairview coffee shop was a haven, its espresso machines hissing, chalkboard menus scrawled with latte specials. I sank into a booth, the vinyl squeaking, my suitcase at my feet. Karen Walsh, my friend of 20 years, sat across, her knitting needles clicking rhythmically. Her gray curls bounced as she leaned forward, her eyes kind. "You look like you've been through a storm," she said, sliding a cappuccino my way. I forced a smile, my fingers tracing the mug's warmth, and spilled the story. Nathan's push, Lauren's sneer, Diane's jab. Karen's needles paused. "Ellen, you've got power they don't know about," she said, her voice firm. She leaned closer, her chai tea steaming. "Grace left you $8 million. I saw the trust papers when I helped clear her house." My jaw dropped, the shop's chatter fading. $8 million? Grace, my employer for a decade, had treated me like a sister, but this. "Use it," Karen urged. "Make them regret this." She shared her own story, years estranged from her son, reconciled only last summer. "I learned to fight for me," she said, her eyes glistening. Her words lit a spark. Maternal love didn't mean enduring betrayal. I unzipped my suitcase for a tissue, my hands brushing a folded paper. I pulled it out. An old hospital bill from Nathan's infancy, listing a congenital heart defect. My breath caught. I'd forgotten this, buried under years of bills and love. It mentioned an orphanage, a detail I'd never shared with him. Was Nathan adopted, and did he know? The surprise tightened my resolve. I'd been his mother, not his doormat. Love meant standing tall, not crumbling. Nathan's push, his hands heavy with ingratitude, had shattered something in me. But Karen's revelation, her voice steady as her needles, pieced me back together. I wasn't a victim. I was a strategist, ready to fight with Grace's gift. My fingers curled around the bill, the espresso's hiss fading as my suitcase wheels rolled out the door. Was my love ever enough for him? The bill's orphanage note lingered, a mystery I couldn't shake. Was Nathan adopted? I gave Nathan my life. He gave me nothing but blame. The dining room in Nathan's Fairview home glowed under a chandelier, its light catching a farmer's market centerpiece of sunflowers, their petals vivid against the white tablecloth. Wine glasses clinked, their soft chimes blending with a radio's soft rock, strumming out lyrics about broken hearts. The air carried the scent of roasted potatoes and rosemary, a Sunday dinner meant to mend fences after Nathan's push 2 days ago. My fingers brushed my shoulder, still sore as I stepped inside, suitcase in tow. A memory flickered, Nathan's adoption day, his tiny fingers clutching mine, his heart defect a fragile thread I'd vowed to protect. That promise felt hollow now, a secret I'd kept too long. I set my suitcase by the door, my sandals scuffing the hardwood. "Nathan," I said, my voice steady despite the knot in my throat, "I'm here for my things." He sat at the table's head, his tie loosened, his eyes bloodshot from stress. His tech startup, I knew, was crumbling under debt, his dreams of success slipping. Lauren, beside him, swirled her wine, her lips curled in a smirk. Mia, my granddaughter, sat across, her phone buzzing with notifications, her face tight. Guests, neighbors, a few of Nathan's colleagues, chatted, their voices a low hum. I took a breath, facing Nathan. "I raised you alone," I said, my words clear, hoping to reach the boy I'd loved. His face twisted, a storm brewing. "You did nothing!" he shouted, slamming his fist on the table. Wine glasses froze mid-air, guests' eyes wide. "I built this life, not you." The words hit like a slap, my chest caving. I'd adopted him at 1, worked double shifts, given up dreams to pay his way. How could he deny that? Lauren laughed, her voice sharp. "Your adoption was your mistake, Ellen," she said, her eyes glinting with cruel amusement. Her privileged upbringing, I knew, made her resent Nathan's financial mess, and I was an easy target. My throat tightened, tears pricking, but Mia's chair scraped back. "Grandma gave you everything," she yelled, her eyes blazing, her voice fierce despite her 15 years. Guests whispered, their forks clattering. I caught Mia's gaze, her loyalty a lifeline, her love for my bedtime stories fueling her defiance. My hands shook, but I stood tall. "You'll regret this, Nathan," I said, my voice cutting through the radio's strum. I turned, my suitcase wheels rattling, the chandelier's flicker casting shadows. My mind raced, replaying years of sacrifice, missing Rachel's graduation to cover Nathan's tuition, sewing his costumes by lamplight. His denial wasn't just cruel, it erased me. I paused by the door, my heart pounding, Mia's words echoing. She saw me, even if he didn't. Outside, under the porch light, I leaned against the railing, the cool wood grounding me. The soft rock's beat faded, replaced by crickets chirping. I unzipped my suitcase, searching for a scarf, my fingers brushing a printed email. Curious, I pulled it out. Nathan to an investor, sent yesterday. "We're $500,000 in debt," it read, detailing a loan default. My breath caught. The words, a shock. His company was crumbling, his bravado a mask. My anger solidified. Sacrifice deserved respect, not scorn. Maternal love, I thought, meant demanding justice, not enduring betrayal. Nathan's tirade, his voice raw with blame, had been my breaking point. Lauren's laugh, cruel and calculated, had deepened the wound. But Mia, her fierce defense lighting the room, gave me strength. I clutched the email, my resolve hardening. I'd fight back, not for Nathan, but for me. The radio's last notes drifted away, the chandelier's glow dimming in my mind. How could my son erase me like this? The email mentioned an urgent investor meeting. Could this be my opening? I was through with tears. It was time to take back my life. The Fairview diner buzzed with morning chatter, a jukebox in the corner spinning Motown hits, Diana Ross's voice soaring over the clatter of plates. The scent of blueberry pancakes and sizzling bacon filled the air, warm and comforting. I slid into a red vinyl booth, my hands still trembling from Nathan's betrayal, his shouted denial, the torn adoption photo, that email exposing his company's $500,000 debt. A memory surfaced. Grace's lawyer, his suit crisp, handing me a sealed envelope years ago. "Open it when you're ready," he'd said, his eyes kind. I hadn't been ready then, but now I felt a spark of something fierce. Karen Walsh sat across from me, her gray curls catching the sunlight streaming through the window. Her knitting needles rested on the table, a half-finished scarf beside her coffee mug. "You look ready to storm a castle," she said, her smile wry. I managed a laugh, my fingers wrapping around my own mug, the warmth steadying me. "Nathan thinks I'm nothing," I said, my voice low. "I'm done letting him." Karen's eyes lit up, her 60 years carrying wisdom from her own battles. "Then hit him where it hurts," she said, leaning forward. "Buy his failing tech company. You've got the money." My breath caught. Grace's $8 million revealed just days ago still felt unreal. She sipped her coffee, her needles still. "When my son cut me off," she began, her voice softening. "I thought I'd lost him forever. Took years, but we reconciled last summer. Don't let Nathan define you, Ellen." Her story, raw and honest, stirred my anger, not at her, but at Nathan's ingratitude. I'd adopted him, worked double shifts, poured my life into his. Maternal love meant fighting back, not fading away. "I'm in," I said, my jaw set, the jukebox beat pulsing like my resolve. Later, in my 5-star hotel suite, the plush carpet muffled my steps as I paced. City lights twinkled through floor-to-ceiling windows, Portland's skyline a glittering promise. Rachel knocked, her face pale, her eyes red-rimmed. "Mom," she said, her voice cracking, "I need to talk." She stepped inside, her sneakers scuffing, her hands twisting. "I blamed you for missing my graduation," she admitted, tears spilling. "I didn't know you were working double shifts for Nathan's college." The word stung, a fresh wound from a misunderstanding I'd never explained. My eyes softened, recalling those endless nights, my feet aching, my heart heavy. "I did it for both of you," I said, my voice thick. Rachel's arms wrapped around me, her hug fierce. "I'm with you now," she vowed, her commitment sealing a crack in my heart. Alone after Rachel left, I unzipped my suitcase, searching for a notepad. My fingers brushed a small leather book, Grace's diary tucked away during her final days. I opened it, my pulse quickening at an entry. "My gift will set Ellen free." The words hit like a jolt, hinting at the inheritance's power, a surprise that fueled my anger. Nathan's email, his cruel denial, his push, they all screamed disrespect. I wouldn't crumble. Maternal love meant standing up, not giving up. I resolved to meet a lawyer, to turn Nathan's debt into my weapon. Rachel's words, raw and remorseful, had hurt but healed. Her pledge, a lifeline. Karen's cunning plan, born from her own reconciliation, lit the path ahead. The jukebox's Motown faded in my mind, my fingers tracing Grace's diary entry, my anger now a focused flame. Can I outsmart the son who forgot me? The diary mentioned a trust fund. How much was it worth? They thought I was broke and broken. I showed them a fortune. The Fairview luxury car dealership sparkled, its polished cars gleaming under spotlights. Jazz tunes drifted from overhead speakers, Ella Fitzgerald's voice smooth and sultry. The scent of new leather hung heavy, mingling with the faint polish of waxed floors. I gripped the wheel of a Mercedes, test-driving it down a quiet street, the engine's purr a steady hum. Grace's words echoed from years ago, spoken over tea in her study. "Money is your shield, Ellen." Her $8 million inheritance, revealed by Karen, burned in my mind, a weapon against Nathan's betrayal, his push, his denial, his crumbling company. Back in the showroom, I parked the car, my hands steady. Vanessa Carter, Diane's 28-year-old niece, strutted over, her heels clicking, her smile tight. Her sales had been slipping, her ambition a raw edge I'd heard about at Nathan's barbecue. "These cars aren't for nurses," she sneered, spotting me, her voice loud enough for customers to turn. A couple browsing a BMW chuckled, their whispers sharp. My eyes narrowed, anger flaring. I'd adopted Nathan, worked nights, sacrificed dreams. Nurse or not, I wasn't invisible. I stepped out, my sundress swaying, and faced Vanessa. "I'll take this one," I said, my voice calm but firm. Her laugh was sharp, her arms crossing. "You? Please, Ellen." I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and tilted the screen. $8 million glowed, the balance clear. "Cash," I added. My gaze locked on hers. Vanessa's face paled, her jaw dropping. Jessica Lee, a 25-year-old junior rep, hurried over, her ponytail bouncing, her eyes wide. She tapped at her tablet, processing the sale, her fingers trembling. The crowd gasped, a salesman dropping his pen with a clatter. "Money doesn't lie, Vanessa," I said, my anger now a quiet blaze. Maternal love meant justice, not submission. Jessica handed me the keys, her voice soft. "That was amazing, Mrs. Harper." Customers murmured, their stares shifting from scorn to awe. Vanessa stormed to the back, her heels echoing, her arrogance shattered. I followed Jessica to the paperwork desk, the jazz fading to a low hum. "I want to be like you someday," Jessica whispered, her eyes bright, her dream of leading a team clear in her earnest smile. She slipped a folded note into my hand. "This might help," she said, glancing around. I nodded, my confidence growing, and tucked it into my purse, my fingers brushing an old hospital bill I'd found days ago. Outside, by my new Mercedes, I unfolded the note, my pulse quickening. It detailed Nathan's missed $200,000 loan payment, his company teetering. The news jolted me, a crack in his armor I hadn't expected. I opened my purse, pulling out the hospital bill, Nathan's from his infancy, noting a heart defect. Its orphanage address nagged at me, a hint of his adoption I'd kept secret. My confidence swelled. Nathan's denial, Vanessa's mockery, they'd underestimated me. I'd fight, not for their approval, but for my worth. Vanessa's sneer, her voice cutting through the showroom, had aimed to bury me. Jessica's quiet courage, her note a gift, lifted me instead. The jazz tune's final notes lingered, my fingers tightening on the note, my path clear. Did they think I'd stay invisible forever? The note mentioned an investor pulling out. Could this sink Nathan's company? Diane wanted to bury me with her words. I was ready to rise above them. The Fairview Charity Gala filled a grand hotel ballroom, its glittering chandeliers casting warm light over slow-dancing couples. Champagne flutes clinked, their delicate chimes weaving through a string quartet's soft melody, a classical piece that hummed with elegance. The air carried traces of perfume and polished wood, the opulence a stark contrast to Nathan's betrayal, his torn photo, his $200,000 loan default I'd learned at the dealership. A memory steadied me. Signing Grace's trust document, its parchment heavy in my hands, her lawyer's nod promising leverage I now wielded. I smoothed my sapphire gown, its silk cool against my skin, and stepped into the ballroom, my heels muffled on the plush carpet. Diane Carter, Lauren's mother, stood near a donor table, her silver hair swept up, her pearl necklace gleaming. Her 62 years carried a snobbish edge, her socialite status a shield she guarded fiercely. Spotting me, her smile froze, her voice hissing to a group of tuxedoed men. "She's a fired nurse, nothing more," she said, her words sharp, dripping with fear of losing her place in Fairview's elite. The donors glanced my way, their murmurs cutting through the quartet's notes. My confidence flared. I'd adopted Nathan, sacrificed my career, and now held $8 million. I wasn't her nobody. I glided toward Nathan's key investor, Mr. Hargrove, his gray suit crisp, his tie a splash of red. "Mr. Hargrove," I said, my smile warm, "I hear your firm's tied to Nathan's company." His brow lifted, intrigued. "It's struggling," I added, my voice low, citing the $200,000 default Jessica had revealed. He nodded, his glass pausing mid-sip. "You're well informed, Mrs. Harper," he said, his tone respectful. Diane's eyes narrowed from across the room, her flute tilting, her status threatened by my ease. My anger at Nathan's push, his denial channeled into strategy. I'd outmaneuver them all. Mia, my 15-year-old granddaughter, tugged my sleeve, her sequined dress sparkling. "Grandma," she whispered, her eyes wide, "I found something in your hotel safe." She slipped me a folded paper, her curiosity burning. She loved my bedtime stories, saw me as her hero. I unfolded it, my pulse quickening. An adoption record, listing Nathan's heart defect from infancy. My breath caught, the secret I'd kept confirmed in black ink. "We'll talk later," I said, deflecting, my mind racing. Rachel, nearby in a simple black dress, leaned in. "I'm digging into Nathan's finances, Mom," she said, her voice firm, her guilt over my missed graduation fueling her support. "I owe you." The quartet's melody swelled, my confidence growing. By the dessert table, laden with chocolate truffles, I sealed a secret meeting with Hargrove. "I'm interested in buying shares," I said, my gaze steady. He agreed, his card crisp in my hand. Diane stormed over, her flute trembling, her voice low. "What are you playing at, Ellen?" she hissed, her status unraveling. I smiled, my tone cool. "I'm not your nobody, Diane." Her face flushed, the donors watching, their whispers shifting. I turned away, the record in my purse a weighty secret. Maternal love, I reflected, meant protecting my worth, not proving it to others. Mia's find, the adoption record's stark details, jolted me, deepening the secret I'd face soon. Rachel's vow, her eyes fierce, anchored me, her remorse a bridge to our bond. The quartet's soft notes lingered, my glance at the record a quiet promise. How long can they pretend I'm not a threat? The record noted an orphanage address. Why was it hidden? Nathan thought he could break me. He broke my heart instead. Nathan's Fairview living room reeked of craft beer, empty bottles cluttering the coffee table. The flat-screen TV hummed, a football game's cheers blaring, crowds roaring over a touchdown. I stood by the doorway, my purse slung over my shoulder, the adoption record Mia found at the gala still heavy in my mind. A memory flashed. Nathan's adoption photo shoot, his 2-year-old smile lighting up the studio, his tiny hand in mine. That photo, framed for years, was my anchor. Now I needed answers, not nostalgia. I stepped forward, my boots scuffing the hardwood. "Nathan," I said, my voice sharp, "why treat me like garbage?" He slouched on the couch, a beer in hand, his eyes bloodshot. His tech company's $1 million debt, hinted at in Jessica's note, gnawed at him, his career failures a festering wound. Lauren perched beside him, her smirk sharp, her nails tapping the armrest. Mia sat cross-legged on the floor, her phone glowing, her face tight. The room's tension crackled, the TV's cheers a mocking backdrop. Nathan's gaze flicked up, cold and hard. "You're dragging me down," he snarled, standing. "If your child looked you in the eye and erased every moment of love you gave, what would hurt more? The words or the silence that followed? What happened next changed everything for me." If you're still here, drop a 6 in the comments so I know I'm not alone in this part. Because this is where the story stopped being about him and started being about me. He grabbed the adoption photo from the mantel, its frame glinting. "This means nothing," he shouted, tearing it in half, the paper's rip slicing through me. I gasped, my chest caving as if he'd torn my heart. "You're outdated, Mom," he spat, tossing the pieces to the floor. Lauren laughed, her voice cruel. "Get with the times, Ellen," she said, her privilege blinding her to my pain. Mia sprang up, her eyes blazing. "That's lit, Grandma, don't listen," she yelled, her slang fierce, her love for my stories fueling her defiance. My eyes burned, tears threatening, but I clenched my fists. "You'll pay for that," I said, my voice low, cutting through the TV's roar. I turned, storming out. The football cheers fading, my boots echoing. Nathan's destruction wasn't just cruel, it erased my love, my sacrifices, the nights I'd rocked him through fevers. Mia's voice, fierce and young, lingered, a spark in my fury. At Karen's cozy apartment, the scent of chai tea warmed the air, knitting yarn spilling across her table. She sat me down, her gray curls bouncing. "Nathan's company owes $1 million," she said, her eyes sharp, handing me a printout. "Buy it now." Her 60 years carried wisdom from reconciling with her estranged son, her voice urgent. "You're fighting for you, Ellen," she said, her words a lifeline. Rachel burst in, her coat damp from rain. "I'm in, Mom," she vowed, her guilt over my missed graduation driving her. Her support, Karen's plan, fanned my anger into resolve. Alone in Karen's guest room, I sat on the bed, the chai's aroma fading. I thought of Nathan's adoption, his heart defect nearly stealing him at one. I'd saved him, worked double shifts, gave up dreams. His photo's ruin demanded justice, not sacrifice. Love meant fighting, I realized, not forgiving betrayal. My phone buzzed, a recording from a friend, Nathan at a bar, his voice slurring, "She's nothing but a nurse." The words stunned me, his public scorn a fresh wound, his mention of a board vote chilling. My fists clenched, my resolve steel. Nathan's torn photo, its pieces scattered, had shattered my heart. Mia's fierce cry, Rachel's vow, Karen's cunning. They rebuilt me. The chai tea's warmth lingered, my fists tight, the recording static a call to action. Did Nathan ever see me as his mother? The recording mentioned a board vote tomorrow. Can I act in time? I didn't need to shout. My money spoke louder than Nathan's lies. The Portland law office gleamed, its glass walls reflecting city lights that twinkled like stars against the dusk. Outside, coffee carts rattled along the sidewalk, their wheels clattering, the aroma of fresh espresso drifting through an open window. Inside, the air was crisp, scented with ink and leather from stacks of legal documents. I sat at a polished oak table, my pen hovering over a contract, my heart steady. Grace's voice echoed from years ago, her advice whispered over a chessboard in her study. Strike when they least expect, Ellen. Her $8 million trust, now my weapon, was about to claim Nathan's company, his $1 million debt, his torn adoption photo, his barroom mockery, all fuel for this moment. Karen Walsh leaned back in her chair, her gray curls catching the overhead light. She sipped a latte, her knitting bag tucked by her feet, her 60 years radiating triumph. "Sign it," she urged, her smile sharp. "He's done, Ellen." Rachel, my daughter, stood by the window, her black sweater hugging her frame, her eyes scanning the contract. "You're unstoppable, Mom," she said, her voice warm, her loyalty a balm after years of guilt over my missed graduation. I pressed the pen down, my signature flowing, the paper crinkling as I bought Nathan's tech company through a silent partner, my identity hidden. The lawyer, Mr. Daniels, nodded, his tie crisp. "It's yours," he said, stacking the papers with a soft thud. My resolve surged, a quiet triumph blooming. I wasn't just fighting Nathan, I was reclaiming me. The next day, I drove my new Mercedes to Nathan's tech office in Fairview, its glass facade glinting under a gray sky. Inside, ping-pong tables sat unused, employees tapping keyboards in a frenzy, their stress palpable. Jessica Lee, the young sales rep from the dealership, met me at the reception desk, her ponytail tight, her tablet clutched close. Her 25 years carried ambition, her dream of leading a team pushing her forward. "I found something," she whispered, her fingers trembling as she emailed me evidence. Nathan's $2 million loan defaults, spreadsheets detailing his mismanagement. "I want to make a difference," she said, her voice bold, her courage a mirror to my own. I nodded, my pulse quickening. The email's ping, a spark in my plan. Outside, by the parking lot, Nathan stormed toward me, his coat flapping, his face twisted. The wind carried the scent of rain, the asphalt slick under my boots. "What are you doing here?" he growled, his paranoia raw, his company's debt a noose tightening. I met his gaze, my stance firm. "Visiting," I said, my voice cool. His eyes narrowed, his voice dropping to a hiss. "You're dead to me if you touch my company." The threat, raw and cruel, hit like a fist. His desperation bared after years of my sacrifices, adopting him, nursing his heart defect, paying his loans. My anger simmered, but I held steady. "You made your choice," I said, turning away, the gravel crunching under my heels. His words, venomous and ungrateful, fanned my resolve. Back in my hotel suite, the city lights a soft glow through the windows. I sat on the edge of the bed, my laptop open. Grace's trust, her gift, empowered this moment, her faith in me a shield against Nathan's greed. I thought of adopting him, his fragile heart beating under my touch, the nights I'd worked to keep him alive. Maternal love, I realized, meant cutting ties with those who'd exploit it. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica lighting the screen. "Board's emergency meeting tomorrow, 9 a.m. My breath caught. The details a surprise, a critical chance to strike. My pulse raced, my fingers tightening on the phone, my plan snapping into focus. Nathan's threat, his voice low and vicious, had aimed to crush me. Jessica's evidence, Rachel's pride, Karen's toast, they lifted me higher. The coffee cart's rattle lingered in my mind, my racing pulse a drumbeat. Nathan's company now mine. Can Nathan stop the storm I've unleashed? He'd found a contract with my lawyer's name. Did he know it was me? Nathan thought he ruled that boardroom. Today, I took his crown. The boardroom at Nathan's tech company in Fairview overlooked Portland's skyline, its floor-to-ceiling windows framing a city aglow with morning light. A mahogany table dominated the space, its surface polished to a mirror shine, papers rustling as board members shifted in their leather chairs. The air was thick with tension, a tense silence broken only by the soft hum of an air conditioner. I stood at the door, my navy blazer crisp, my heart steady. A memory flickered, Grace, years ago, gifting me a brass keychain over coffee. Her voice warm. Keys unlock futures, Ellen. That keychain, now in my purse, primed this moment, my $8 million strike ready to claim Nathan's company. I strode in, my heels clicking, the board's eyes snapping to me. Nathan sat at the table's head, his tie askew, his face pale from last night's contract discovery, my lawyer's name a hint he couldn't place. I own this company now, I announced, my voice clear, cutting through the rustle of papers. Gasps rippled, Nathan's chair scraping back. I set Grace's trust documents and Nathan's adoption record on the table, their edges crisp. $8 million bought your shares, I said, pointing to the trust. And this, I added, tapping the record, proves I adopted you, Nathan, at 1. With a heart defect, I nursed you through. His eyes widened, his breath hitching. You're lying, he screamed, slamming his fist. I deserved it all. His unjust claim, raw with greed, burned through me, his pride blinding him to my sacrifices. 30 years of nursing, double shifts, a life poured into him. Lauren, in a corner chair, gasped, her manicured hand clutching her purse, her smugness crumbling. Diane, beside her, shrank, her 62 years of socialite poise unraveling, her pearl earrings dull in the light. The board froze, their pens stilled. Rachel and Mia burst through the door, Rachel's eyes fierce. You're stuck in the past, Nathan, she said, her voice sharp, her guilt over my missed graduation fueling her pride. Mia, her ponytail bouncing, grinned. Grandma's the boss, she chirped, her 15 years radiant with joy, her love for my stories shining. I faced Nathan, my gaze unyielding. You're done, I said, firing him, my voice steady. The board nodded, stunned, their murmurs rising like a tide. By the window, I held Nathan's office key, its metal cool in my palm. Jessica Lee, the young rep who'd given me evidence, stood nearby, her tablet tucked under her arm, her ambition bright. This is for someone who earns it, I said, handing her the key, a symbolic transfer to her leadership dreams. Jessica's eyes glistened, her bold spirit inspired. I turned to the board, Lauren's phone buzzing in her purse. Glancing down, I saw her screen, an email to Diane, hinting at a legal fight. The surprise tightened my chest, but my triumph held firm. I reflected, the skyline a backdrop. Maternal love meant letting go of greed, not love. Nathan's rage, Lauren's desperation, Diane's silence. They couldn't touch me now. Nathan's scream, his claim to my money, had aimed to crush me. Rachel's fire, Mia's cheer, Jessica's gratitude, they crowned me instead. The boardroom's silence wrapped around me, my gaze steady, the email's glow a faint challenge. Was I his mother or just his bank? The email mentioned a lawyer's meeting. Could they challenge my victory? I took Nathan's company, but he wouldn't go down without a fight. The Fairview courthouse stood solid, its stone facade warmed by the late morning sun. Food trucks lined the street, their grills sizzling, sending taco and burger aromas drifting through open windows. Inside, the courtroom hummed with quiet tension, wooden benches creaking as spectators shifted. I sat in the front row, my blazer pressed, my hands folded. A memory surfaced. Signing Nathan's college loan papers years ago, my pen shaking, each stroke a sacrifice for the boy I'd adopted. Now those sacrifices fueled my fight. Grace's $8 million trust my sword against his greed. My lawyer, Mr. Daniels, stood before the judge, his voice steady. He spread documents across the table, their edges crisp, detailing Nathan's $2 million loan defaults. Mrs. Harper owns the company lawfully, he said, pointing to my purchase contract. Nathan slumped in his chair across the aisle, his tie loose, his face haggard. She tricked us, he blurted, his voice cracking, his defiance a desperate grab for status. The judge's eyes narrowed, her gavel poised. Evidence? She asked. Nathan's lawyer stammered, papers fluttering. The gavel cracked, dismissing his counterclaim. Spectators whispered, the food trucks hum a soft backdrop. My resolve melted into relief, my victory sealed. Later, in my hotel suite, the city lights twinkled through tall windows, their glow softening the room's plush carpet. Craft fair trinkets, a ceramic bird, a woven coaster, dotted the shelves, tokens of a life I was rebuilding. The door buzzed, and I opened it to find Lauren and Diane, their faces drawn. Lauren's blonde hair hung limp, her eyes red. "Don't ruin us," she pleaded, her voice trembling, her privilege crumbling under Nathan's defeat. Diane, her pearl earrings dull, clutched her purse. "I'll lose everything," she said, her 62 years quivering with fear of social irrelevance. I crossed my arms, my voice firm. "You chose greed over family," I said, my words sharp. They turned, heads bowed, their heels clicking as they left, the suite's quiet hum settling. My heart lightened, their retreat a step toward closure. That evening, Karen threw a party in the suite, her laughter filling the air. Her gray curls bounced as she raised a glass of sparkling cider. "To Ellen, who took her life back," she toasted, her 60 years radiant with pride, her own reconciliation with her son echoing my triumph. Friends from Fairview clapped, their smiles warm, the clink of glasses a gentle rhythm. I stood by the window, Grace's trust documents in my mind, her gift a shield through Nathan's push, his photos ruin, his courtroom lies. I'd adopted him. Work nights, given everything. Maternal love, I thought, meant choosing who deserved it, not begging for their scraps. Karen handed me a news clipping, its headline stark. Local startup fails. Founder relocates to Seattle. Nathan's new venture, already collapsing, jolted me, a sign of his fading grip. My relief deepened, my liberation solid. Nathan's desperate claim, his voice raw in the courtroom, had aimed to discredit me. Lauren's plea, Diane's fear, they'd tried to pull me back. But Karen's toast, her eyes shining, lifted me higher. The food truck's sizzle lingered in my memory, my smile calm, the clippings rustle a quiet end. Why did I ever seek their approval? The clipping mentioned Nathan's venture collapsing. Where was he now? I didn't need Nathan's company. I needed a home of my own. My lakeside cottage near Fairview hummed with quiet life, its rose gardens blooming in bursts of pink and red. The lake's water lapped gently against the shore, a soft rhythm under the morning sun. A food co-op delivery van rumbled up the gravel drive, its engine a low growl, dropping off a crate of fresh bread and vegetables. I stood on the porch, my sweater loose, my hair catching the breeze. Grace's voice echoed from years ago, describing her lakeside retreat over tea. "It's where you find peace, Ellen." Her words, once a dream, now grounded me. My victory over Nathan's greed, his courtroom lies, his torn photo, fading into this new chapter. Inside, I unpacked boxes, the scent of cedar from the floorboards mingling with bread's yeasty warmth. I set a new desk by the window, its oak surface smooth, a symbolic act of claiming my space. My hands lingered on its edge, the lake's shimmer through the glass, a promise of freedom. I'd sold Nathan's company for $10 million, the profit wiring through days ago, enough to buy this cottage and more. My fingers brushed a photo of Rachel and Mia, their smiles bright, and I placed it on the desk, my heart light. The van's engine faded, gravel crunching as it left, my triumph settling into serene contentment. Rachel and Mia arrived by noon, their car crunching up the drive. Rachel carried a foil tray of grilled chicken, its smoky aroma filling the cottage. Mia, her ponytail bouncing, hugged me tight. "You're my hero, Grandma," she grinned, her 15 years glowing with hope, her love for my stories shining. We sat in the living room, Rachel's cluttered apartment a memory, her vinyl records, her messy warmth. She sank into the couch, her eyes teary. "I'm sorry I blamed you for missing my graduation," she said, her voice cracking, the misunderstanding a scar from my double shifts for Nathan's tuition. I reached for her hand, my own eyes soft. I did it for you both, I said. She hugged me, her arms fierce, and we laughed, Mia flipping through my old vinyls. The needle's crackle sparked Simon and Garfunkel, their harmonies weaving through our chatter. Later, by the kitchen table, Karen called, her voice warm through the phone. "Nathan's struggling in Seattle," she said, her 60 years reflective, her own reconciliation with her son a mirror to my peace. I leaned against the counter, the lakes lapping a distant hum, and felt no anger, only closure. Nathan's absence, his failed ventures, his push and lies were shadows now. I opened a desk drawer, seeking a pen, and found a letter, Grace's handwriting bold, "Live for you, Ellen." My breath caught, her final wish a surprise, urging happiness I'd finally claimed. I smiled, my peace solid, maternal love now a gift to myself first. Rachel's tears, Mia's grin, had healed old wounds. Karen's call, her pride steady, anchored my new start. The lake's gentle waves rolled in my mind, my sigh soft, the letters crinkle a quiet vow. Did I need their love or my own? The letter hinted at a small savings account Grace left. What was it for? I wasn't Nathan's mother anymore. I was Ellen, free at last. My lakeside cottage near Fairview glowed with September light, wisteria blooming in purple cascades along the porch. Jazz records spun on the turntable, Ella Fitzgerald's voice drifting through open windows, smooth and warm. The kitchen hummed with the aroma of fresh coffee, its rich scent curling from a steaming pot. I stood in the garden, a paintbrush in hand, dabbing blue onto a canvas, the lake's gentle lap a steady rhythm. Grace's letter, found in my desk, lay open nearby, her words bold. "Be yourself, Ellen." That wish, read fully now, closed my journey, her trust empowering me through Nathan's betrayal, his push, his lies, his obscurity. I dipped my brush, the canvas blooming with sky. "I don't regret adopting Nathan," I murmured, my voice soft, the coffee's warmth steadying my hand. "I regret not valuing myself sooner." His heart defect, his torn photo, his courtroom defiance, they'd shaped me, but no longer owned me. I'd raised him, worked nights, sacrificed dreams, but maternal love, I'd learned, was choosing who deserved my heart, including me. The jazz swelled, Ella's notes a lullaby for my contentment, my self-assurance blooming like the wisteria. Rachel and Mia arrived, their laughter ringing as they stepped from their car, a picnic basket swinging. Rachel, her hair loose, set out apple turnovers, their flaky sweetness mingling with the lake's breeze. Mia, 16 now, plopped onto a blanket, grinning. "Grandma, you're iconic," she said, her pride bright, her love for my stories unwavering. Rachel sat beside me, her eyes soft. "You taught me strength, Mom," she said, her voice thick, her graduation misunderstanding a healed scar. I shared Nathan's adoption story, my voice calm, the wisteria swaying. "I chose him," I said, "but I choose me now." They hugged me, their arms warm, our bond a quiet triumph. Inside, by the kitchen table, I poured coffee, the pot's gurgle a gentle hum. Rachel scrolled her phone, pausing. "Lauren divorced Nathan," she said, her tone neutral. "He's nobody in Seattle now." The news, a faint echo of his failures, stirred no anger, only closure. I smiled, sitting at my desk, my memoir's pages open. My pen glided, words flowing, my nursing years, Nathan's heart, Grace's gift, my boardroom victory. Maternal love, I wrote, was a gift to those who valued it, and to myself first. The jazz record's final note lingered, my pen's scratch a vow of freedom. Rachel's gratitude, Mia's pride had woven our family anew. Nathan's shadow, Lauren's privilege, faded into silence. The lake's lapping waves filled my heart, my pen's rhythm steady, my story mine. Was I ever their mother, or just me waiting to be free? The morning sun spilled over my lakeside cottage, its golden rays dancing on the wisteria that climbed the porch. Jazz records spun inside, Billie Holiday's voice weaving through the open windows, rich and soulful. The kitchen hummed with fresh coffee, its nutty aroma curling from a steaming pot. I stood in the garden, September 2028 air crisp against my skin, a paintbrush poised over a canvas. My memoir, published last year, sat on a nearby table, its cover a watercolor of this lake. Grace's letter, "Be yourself, Ellen," still guided me. Its words a compass through Nathan's betrayal, my boardroom triumph, and the peace I'd claimed. I dipped my brush in crimson, stroking bold arcs across the canvas. "I'm Ellen Harper," I whispered, my voice steady, "and this is my story." Nathan's absence, his obscurity in Seattle, Lauren's divorce, had faded to a distant hum. Rachel and Mia, my daughter and granddaughter, were my anchors now, their love a tapestry woven through years of hurt and healing. Maternal love, I'd learned, was a gift to those who cherished it, and to myself first. The lake's gentle lap echoed my contentment, my 60 years a canvas of hard-won freedom. Mia burst through the gate, her 18-year-old energy lighting the garden. "Grandma, I got into art school," she squealed, her ponytail swinging, her sketchbook clutched tight. Her love for my stories had grown into her own creativity, her eyes bright with hope. I hugged her, paint smudging her sleeve. "You're unstoppable, Mia," I said, my heart swelling. Rachel followed, her hair streaked with gray, her smile soft. "She's your mini-me, Mom," she said, setting a picnic basket on the grass. Apple turnovers peeked from under a cloth, their flaky sweetness a nod to our tradition. We spread a blanket, the wisteria's shadow dappling us, Billy's voice fading to a hum. A new face joined us, Lila Monroe, a 45-year-old neighbor who'd moved in last spring. Her short curls bounced as she sat, her laugh warm, her hands carrying a thermos of iced tea. Lila, a single mother, had fled a toxic marriage, her teenage son, Ethan, struggling with anger. "Ellen, your book saved me," she'd told me months ago, her voice raw, my memoir's tale of resilience her guide. Now she poured tea, her eyes grateful. "Ethan's opening up," she said, "thanks to you." I smiled, my brush paused. Helping Lila felt like helping myself, a mirror to my past battles. Rachel opened the basket, her fingers brushing a letter. "This came for you," she said, handing it over. The envelope was plain, postmarked Seattle, no return address. My pulse quickened, a faint echo of Nathan's shadow. I slid it open, unfolding a single page, the handwriting unfamiliar. "Ellen," it read, "I'm sorry. I failed you." No signature, but the words carried Nathan's weight, his pride, his ruin, perhaps a flicker of regret. My breath caught, the letter a surprise, stirring no anger, only pity. I tucked it away, my peace unshaken. "Old ghosts," I said, my voice calm, Rachel's gaze soft. Mia sketched the lake, her pencil scratching, her focus fierce. "Grandma, how'd you get so strong?" she asked, her eyes curious. I leaned back, coffee mug warm in my hands. "By choosing me," I said, my words simple. I shared a story, Grace's lakeside talks, her trust that freed me, the boardroom where I fired Nathan. "Love isn't giving everything," I added. "It's knowing when to hold back." Mia nodded, her sketch blooming with waves. Rachel squeezed my hand, her graduation regret long healed, her gratitude a quiet glow. Lila's thermos clinked as she refilled our glasses. "I'm scared Ethan'll hate me forever," she admitted, her voice low, her ex's shadow lingering. I met her gaze, my 60 years steady. "You're enough, Lila," I said, my memoir's lesson clear. "Show him your heart, but guard it too." She smiled, her shoulders easing, my words a small bridge. The lake's lap grew louder, the sun climbing, our picnic a patchwork of love. Rachel's loyalty, Mia's hope, Lila's courage. By dusk, I walked Lila to her cottage, the gravel crunching under our shoes. Ethan, 16, slouched on her porch, his hoodie up, his eyes wary. "Hey, Ethan," I said, my tone gentle. He shrugged, but his gaze lingered on my paint-stained hands. "You're the book lady," he muttered, his voice gruff but curious. I nodded, offering a smile. "Come paint with me sometime," I said, planting a seed. He looked away, but his nod was faint, a crack in his armor. Lila's eyes glistened, her gratitude silent, our bond a new thread in my family's weave. Back at my cottage, I sat at my desk, the jazz record's needle crackling, coffee cooling. I opened my memoir, a blank page waiting. My pen moved, words flowing. Nathan's letter, Lila's hope, Ethan's nod. I wrote of Rachel's laughter, Mia's art, my canvas bright with color. Maternal love, I mused, was a garden, tending those who grew with you, pruning those who didn't. The letter from Seattle sat beside me, its apology unread again. I didn't need Nathan's regret. I needed this. My home, my family, my story. Rachel's basket, Mia's sketch had filled my heart. Lila's trust, Ethan's glance had opened new doors. The lake's waves whispered in the dusk, my pen scratch a quiet hymn, my life my own. What did Nathan's letter change? Nothing. I was Ellen, painting my future, free at last. As I sit in my lakeside cottage, jazz humming and wisteria swaying, I feel the weight of Nathan's betrayal lift, replaced by the warmth of Rachel and Mia's love. My journey, from his cruel push to the boardroom where I claimed his company, taught me that family isn't just blood, it's those who see your heart. In life, we may pour ourselves into others, but true love begins with valuing ourselves, a lesson I learned through tears and triumph. Like sharing apple turnovers at a picnic, family bonds grow when we listen and cherish each other's worth. Lila and Ethan, my new neighbors, remind me that helping others heal strengthens our own roots. If my story stirs your heart, please share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your family story. Your voice matters just as mine found its song.